Recently, the new DLC for Airsoft dropped and I forced all my friends to pay $10 for it. Welcome back to Sergeant Banana, which coincidentally is my legal name. If you watched my last video, which you probably should do before watching this, you know we went out to a snowy forest and played some Search and Destroy in real life. And for those of you who don't video game, that's where one team gets an explodey thingy and has to bring it to a place and blow it up, while the other team attempts to tell them that's a bad idea and possibly disarm the boom thing if things escalate too much. So we got out to the forest, got our gear on, and then realized someone was going to have to build a timer. Yes, timer. There's a last-minute script change and now we have to call it a timer, not the other thing. FBI, please watch to the end of the video before kicking down my door. Thanks. Remembering that once at the young age of 13, I once owned a Raspberry Pi and vaguely understood what it did, Maple Leaf Marksman told me that I should be the one to do it. So I did. We knew we wanted something that would count down, could be stopped and started, and beeped, so I got to work on that. Well, actually, I copied and pasted Amazon links into ChatGPT to ask it what would work, and eventually it came up with these. This screen. This button. And the Raspberry Pi 02 with pre-soldered headers, as it was cheap and I don't want to solder. We also realized we needed this thing to beep, and only after ordering did I notice that the Raspberry Pi 02 with pre-soldered headers did not have a headphone jack. So we went with one of those motherboard beepers that old 90s computers used to have to tell you that they were doing something. I will note that the Raspberry Pi 02 with pre-soldered headers does have Bluetooth, but I'm not shoving a Bluetooth speaker into my timer. Once all the parts arrived, it was time to make them do something, so back to ChatGPT I went. I started out simple, telling ChatGPT I got all the parts we talked about previously, and now I want to assemble them and make them do things. I outlined that I wanted a timer that would beep for 3 minutes once the button was pressed 5 times in a row to activate it. I said that the screen should have a progress bar and show the time left. The timer should also be paused when the button is pressed and reset when the button was held. Also, the beep should happen every 2 seconds until it got to 30 seconds when the timer starts beeping every 1 second. Was it that easy? Will it write out all the code it needs to work? Well, yeah, mostly. ChatGPT told me how to plug in all the various wires and what pins they should all go to. It even gave me some test scripts so I could make sure everything was working. And that's where I ran into my first issue. Once the Raspberry Pi had its OS installed and had my Bluetooth mouse and keyboard connected, I tried plugging in the various components and running the test scripts for each of them one at a time. The little screen said hello, the beeper thingy beeped, but the button? Nothing. Oh boy was it a lot of nothing, as ChatGPT and I stayed up till 4 AM testing different solutions with nothing working. To put it simply, well, I mean, not too simply because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but the button should send out a high voltage signal to the Pi when it's not pressed and a low voltage signal when it is pressed. The issue seemed to be that the Pi wanted to use something called edge detection to figure out if the button was pressed or not, and no matter what it told me to do, it wouldn't work. Finally, just before I gave up and passed out, I came up with a solution. Yes, me, not the AI. To have the Pi consistently checking for high or low voltage signals instead of its stupid edge detection. And boom, we have a working button. No pun intended. By the way, I will provide the script down in the description below, but for now, let's move on to the design. It just so happens that I own a 3D printer, which is a funny thing to own when you don't even own a 2D printer. I hopped on SketchUp Web and designed a case for all my electronic crap to fit in while still looking like a, B word. Hours and hours of printing later and boom, again no pun intended, we were in business. The design was fairly inspired by Counter-Strike and had slots on the inside big enough for all the parts. Well, mostly except for the USB cable which stuck out the side because I used a giant battery, so I got angry and cut my own hole in the side of it. But other than that, everything fit perfectly. And before the video's over, I wanted to show you what this looks like on the inside, so let's cut the tape, take it off, and see what we got. Carefully pulling the top cover off, trying not to break the pegs, will reveal the electronics inside, complete with birthday cake duct tape. Once you have successfully ruined your child's birthday by pulling out your airsoft gun and scaring off all his friends, it's time to take off the birthday duct tape. Doing this will reveal the battery, which can easily be pulled out from the battery compartment. After removing the battery, next up is the button, which will easily pop out as I've just Velcro taped it in. Once the button is out, the screen is just held on with a bit of pressure, so that will pry up pretty easily. And there you go, once the screen is out, everything should just fall out, including the Raspberry Pi itself. And on that note, that is about it for this video. If you have any questions or need any help building this yourself, put it in the comments and I'll try to answer as best as I can, or just ask ChatGPT because that's what I did. As I mentioned before, all the links to everything I used and the script will be in the description. Thanks for watching.